going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Fan Committee Football Podcast, our third episode. We're continuing on with our AFC East previews, and joining me once again is my fantastic co-host, one Michael Herrera. What's going on, Mike?
I'm doing good, Joe. How you doing today?
I'm doing awesome. I'm excited to talk some more AFC East because last pod we were talking about the teams I think we both consider going to have some strong seasons, your Dolphins as well as the Bills, who are coming off two straight really good seasons. Now, today we're going to talk about the Jets later on with Jets fan Dylan Price, our fellow Penn Stater. But first we got to talk the Patriots, who did make the playoffs last year. They had a strong season. I was very pro Patriots last year. I thought they were going to have a good season coming into the year, and I was happy to be proven right. Their defense was really good. You know, their run game really hit its stride later in the season to the point where, as we talked on last episode, they beat the Bills in a game where they only passed the ball 3 times. Of course, the Bills wound up beating them in the playoffs later in the season. Yeah. But this year, I don't know if I'm feeling the same magic for the Patriots. What about you, Mike? What are you thinking?
I am not feeling the Patriots at all. And for once, this is not just because I'm a Dolphins fan. I truly do believe this year that the Patriots are not a good team.
I agree. And I guess we can start with the one constant with the Patriots, and that's, of course, Bill Belichick, their coach / front office lead man. I don't know if he's called a general manager, but he's definitely the lead executive in New England. You know, I consider Belichick the greatest football coach of all time. I mean, his resume speaks for itself. But, you know, I'm going to criticize. I don't care who you are. I'm going to criticize you. Joe Tooman versus Bill Belichick on a football argument. Yeah, I'm going to say I think I would have made a better decision than Bill Belichick if I was running the Patriots on how to approach the offseason they just had.
Yep.
I don't even know where to start. I think the main thing is that they let J.C. Jackson, one of their elite defensive players, the elite corner, walk in free agency. But there's a lot more where that comes from. But that's definitely someplace we can start. What did you think about that? What did you think about their decision not to pay J.C. Jackson?
Terrible move. I mean, look, I understand that J.C. Jackson was someone who, like, the Patriots kind of just developed out of nowhere. He turned to amazing stud. And sure, they could probably turn in one of their undrafted guys or one of their late draft picks into someone amazing like him, but that is not a guarantee. There is never a guarantee that you can turn someone into an amazing player. And I think letting J.C. Jackson go was a huge mistake. J.C. Jackson is the only good corner they have. It's not like as if it was like, for example, like the Dolphins, if like Howard or Byron Jones left, like, yeah, it would suck losing one of the other, Howard more, but yeah, there was still at least one good corner left. They don't have that. They brought in Malcolm Butler as his replacement. Terrible idea. I mean,
we can get into that later. I hated that. But
I mean, his replacement, J.C. Jackson's replacement as of now is Jalen Mills, and Jalen Mills does not inspire confidence because, like, at safety, he was okay at best, and I can't imagine what's going to happen when he's at corner.
Yeah, my all the Eagles fans listening, I'm sure they got love for Jalen from the 2017 team, but at the same time, they'll admit he was not getting it done towards the end of his tenure there. And he really didn't get it done in his first year at the Patriots either. That was one of Belichick's, you know, we saw Bill Belichick splurge in free agency 2 years ago, which was part of the reason it was so disheartening to see him not re-sign JC, was because of all the money he spent the year before on guys not quite the caliber of that. And I would say he hit on a lot of those signings, but in my opinion, Jalen Mills was not one of them. But with that notwithstanding, you know, you look at J.C. Jackson, you know, this is a guy who had 9 and 8 interceptions in the past 2 seasons, led the league in passes defended last year with 23. So 23 and 8, you know, that's 31 passes that he either picked off or totally broke down. Not to mention, you look at his stats, he held quarterbacks to 49% completion percentage against him, and he allowed a 47 QBR. So not only was the raw stats elite, his more advanced stats were also very, very good. I'm sure Pro Football Focus as well gave him a nice big grade. This is one of the best corners in football, just plain straight. And you throw him in with Stephon Gilmore and Darrelle Revis. This is the third time this decade that Bill Belichick has let an elite corner leave. But I will say he kind of was proven right on those first 2 occasions. We'll have to see how it plays out with JC, but I think it's going to be a little different this time around.
My thing with that, though, is that those players towards the end of their tenure with the Patriots also started to dip in quality. And J.C. Jackson, arguably,
Gilmore specifically, more accurate.
Gilmore, yeah, but like J.C. Jackson improved more so even. And I
Right.
think even him choosing to leave, because I'm sure they offered him a nice contract as well. To me, it kind of feels like he chose to leave because it's not like the Patriots made any other incredible signings that would have persuaded him to stay. So
Yeah.
it kind of feels to me I'd be very concerned if I was a Patriots fan to see one of your best players leave because I can't imagine Bill Belichick didn't put up at least some fight to keep this homegrown talent with the team. Or it could possibly be that his ego's finally getting in the way and he thinks, well, I'm Bill Belichick, I can just keep recycling,
Right.
just figuring this out. But it's not a great sign for the Patriots that JC Jackson, they're arguably their best player, has
Yeah.
left.
Yeah,
Like,
I definitely agree with that. I think, and he's only 26, going on 27.
yeah.
I think he's going to keep playing real well for the Chargers because that secondary. We'll get to the Chargers a couple divisions away, but I think their secondary is going to be pretty good too.
Yeah.
But I think that was a big issue I had. But I just think the Patriots are doing bizarre things. Like if you look at their coaching staff, so they have no offensive coordinator and no defensive coordinator, at least not appointed positions. They
Yeah.
have Matt Patricia, who was the defensive coordinator for the Patriots before he became the Lions head coach. He's returned, but he's not the defensive coordinator. He's the offensive line coach and senior offensive advisor. You know, totally opposite of what his credentials are. And then you have Joe Judge coming off an absolutely disastrous stint as the Giants coach. He was the special teams coach with the Patriots before, maybe
Yeah.
even the best special teams coach in the league. He's returned as well, but he's an offensive assistant and the quarterback's coach now. We just
Yeah.
saw an absolute failure at quarterback for the New York Giants last year with Daniel Jones and Mike Glennon. And now he'll be coaching Mac Jones, the guy that the Patriots want to be the face of the franchise. He'll have a hands-on impact with him. And then additionally, like you have Gerard Mayo, who was interviewed for the Texans head coaching job. He's still with the Patriots, but I think it's weird they didn't promote him to D coordinator if he was getting offers. He's still the inside linebackers coach. Not
Yeah.
to mention, we already know about Steve Belichick, but I didn't even realize Brian Belichick is also part of this coaching staff. I don't really know what Bill Belichick's doing. Like we saw Josh McDaniels leave. You know, he's been their offensive coordinator for the better part of 2 decades, besides a 2-year stint as Denver's head coach a while back.
Yeah.
But, you know, Brian Flores left a few years back, of course. At this point, like, this staff is really weird. I know, well, it's Bill Belichick. He'll figure it out. I genuinely believe this could be a big deal. What do you think of that?
Because the thing is, I think this time it's different because like every time that Bill Belichick has turned a team of underrated people and players into something amazing, people accepted the fact that this could potentially work out, and I really think that this time, I think Bill Belichick's kind of let his ego get to his head. I think honestly, this is kind of like a weird take, but I think it's because of Brady leaving. Everyone's like, oh, Brady was the reason for your success. Look what happened now. And I don't totally disagree with that notion. I think it was both of them together were what really made the Patriots work, but I don't disagree with the notion that like if Bill didn't have Brady his entire career, Bill wouldn't be the coach he is today, and he's really just trying to like prove that like I'm Bill Belichick, I'm the best. Sometimes you just have to let it go. Like sometimes you have to accept like, yeah, I'm older, things change, the game changes, you have to adjust accordingly, and I think he's not doing that, and he really should be.
I just think it's weird that I like that he spent all that cap space 2 years back. I thought that was him trending in the right direction, like realizing like I have to start actually, bringing in some real developed talent instead of just assuming all these fringe guys are going to develop for me. And I feel like he went back the opposite direction this year. I'm not going to kill the Cole Strange pick. I know a lot of people already have. Everyone already knows about that. But like, let's face it, Belichick has not nailed his first round picks really at all in the past decade. Very few have panned out. I mean, you got. I mean, I'm just trying to think. Dominique Easley, we just saw N'Keal Harry go to the Bears. He didn't work out at all. I'm sure there's plenty more where that came from that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. But and it extends even to the second rounds, Aaron Dobson, et cetera. Like there's plenty of examples.
Yeah.
And signing Malcolm Butler to be maybe the cornerback one. This is a guy who didn't play last year. He retired because he was on the Cardinals in the offseason, just retired. He was coming off a tenure with the Titans that wasn't bad, but was very up and down, I would say. And now Belichick's bringing him back, and I wouldn't hate that if it wasn't like it's a legit 2-year deal. If it was like a 1-year unguaranteed make the team, like prove you can make the team deal, okay, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But weird that they're seemingly counting on him to have a big role in the secondary.
Yeah. It's like you were saying, it's not a 1-year deal with someone better like ahead of him.
Yeah.
He is basically the best player on this team, and it's incredibly
Best corner.
suspect. Or corner, yes.
Yeah.
Not the best player.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, when you look at the rest of the secondary, like you're saying, like we mentioned Mills already, he's a little underwhelming. They drafted 2 corners, Marcus Jones and Jack Jones. Can't get more generic than those names. No, but not to diminish the players. I'm sure they could certainly turn out to be good. But Miles Bryant, he actually played a little bit for the team last year. We'll see if he takes a jump. And then John Jones has been in the slot for them for a while. He's like the lone consistent part of this corner room that's going to continue over. But yeah, I could see Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Gabe Davis, even Garrett Wilson. Like, this is going to be a tough spot for these corners against this division's weapons.
I mean, honestly,
Jalen Waddle too.
they're going to eat that team up alive. Like these Patriots corners, like Jack Jones and Marcus Jones, I think are actually kind of good picks. I think those are like classic Bill Belichick.
You would know more than me for sure. Yeah.
I think they're like classic underrated. I think they have good potential. You can't rely on them to cover the players they're going to be covering. I mean, like you said, I don't understand how Bill Belichick trusts this team to like cover that. I mean, I know they have Kyle Duggar and Jabril Peppers and Devin McCourty, and that's a pretty decent safety duo, but like, I don't know, this cornerback group is really suspect. And if we know anything, a bad cornerback room is what really make or breaks a team.
Yeah, and bad corners hurt your safeties, and they got 2 real good safeties. Kyle Duggar, well, we've been criticizing Belichick's moves, but that's one move recently that's really paid off is the Kyle Duggar pick in the second round, I believe it was. And then Devin McCourty, obviously, he's been there over a decade. He knows he's like Devin McCourty's really the last like long-term Patriots Brady era guy left. He's still not that bad. He had a fine season last year, but Dante Hightower left the team. He got cut, I believe, or maybe he just was a free agent. Either way, McCourty's really the last guy standing, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think he's still a fine player. Adrian Phillips as well, and you mentioned Jabril Peppers, so I think they got a lot of depth at safety, but that kind of gets canceled out by how bad these corners are.
Yeah. I would not be surprised if we see like a lot of just 3 safety looks from this team because they're really going to need all the help they can get.
And we've seen Jabril Peppers. He's kind of a versatile defensive player. He hasn't necessarily lived up to potential, but I think he's proven that he can play some slot corner. He can go all over the field. For sure. Now, looking at the rest of this defense, what do you think about the front 7?
This front 7, it does not inspire hope either. They're expecting a lot out of some young players. I mean, Matt Judon is insane. The guy's crazy. Josh Uche had a pretty decent rookie season. Like, the dude's not bad. But other than that, they're really relying on Juwan Bentley, who played good for like 2 games one season and then got injured, and he's kind of been back and forth. You're counting on Mac Wilson, Dietrich Wise. Like, you're counting on these young guys, even Afreen Jennings. These young players are not in optimal positions to be succeeding right now. And I think that's really going to hurt them because this is not an excellent front 7 at all.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. Juwan Bentley, I think he's been there a while. Like, he's proven he can be at least a starting inside linebacker, but I wouldn't say he's going to save this defense at all. I think he's competent. I think he's a fine player. I'm interested to hear what you have to say about 2 ex-Dolphins on this defense. So Raekwon McMillan, he's coming off an ACL tear. He hasn't done much in a couple seasons, but he's I think he might get some playing time here. And then also Davon Godchak, I think he's actually pretty solid.
Davon Godchak, I mean, maybe I'm just salty. He left the Dolphins, but like, he's good, but he's also not really going to carry this defense. Like, he'll put the work in. I mean, him and Lawrence Guy, those are fine players, but like, they're not.
Lawrence Guy, another long time Pat. Yeah.
Yeah. Raekwon McMillan, the problem with Raekwon McMillan is that even though he's going to get a lot of playing time, with the Dolphins at least, he kind of hit his ceiling, and his ceiling was really just run stopper and
Hmm.
basically nothing else. And he went to a new team. He went to Vegas for a year, or
Yeah.
well, I think they were still Oakland at the time, but he went to the Raiders for a year. It wasn't much more than just a run stopper again.
And you mentioned Uche and Jennings. So Uche, he's been in the league 2 years now, and let's be real, like I'm not gonna diminish him. He might have a breakout year this year. You never know. He's still young, but so far he's really been nothing more than a situational outside linebacker. And then Anthony Jennings hasn't really done much at all. He missed all of last season, and his rookie year he didn't play too much either. Looking at the D line, we mentioned Godchow. Lawrence Guy, he's still competent. Like Lawrence Guy's fine. He's a good run stopper. He's been on Super Bowl teams before. Christian Barmore, I actually do like. He didn't have a crazy rookie season, but I think his pedigree, I think he's going to become at least a good player on that D line. And then you have Henry Anderson coming back. He signed a multi-year contract after coming over from the Jets, but he was injured, only played 4 games last year. So we'll have to see if he can become a starting defensive end like they had hoped he would. But like you said before, I think Matt Judon is really the only premier guy. And maybe if Kyle Ducker can take the leap, they might be lucky and have two top level defensive players. But as I see it right now, Judon, who had double digit sacks again last year, was really the heart of the defense. I think he's really the only guy that this defense can really count on.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Bill Belichick's relying a little bit too much on him and what his pedigree says, and he's not actually really looking out for the best for this team. I think it's kind of telling that a lot of people are like, we thought we were going to draft Cole Strange in the 3rd round. It's one thing for Bill Belichick to turn a projected 3rd rounder who goes in the 3rd round to a great player, but it's another thing to draft someone 3rd round or draft someone 1st round projected like 3rd round. Like that's not going to help his case at all. And, it's not ideal. The rest of the draft class is not great. I think their 2nd round draft pick, Tyquan Thornton, also not a great move. They kind of pulled the Bengals a few years back. They saw that speed and they're like, draft him, sign him, give him all the money we can. And I do not feel that is always the smart decision.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I actually don't hate the Tyquan Thornton pick. I just think 2nd round might have been a little excessive when maybe there's some
Yeah,
receivers.
that is my issue.
Did
I
he
should
go ahead of George Pickens? Do we know? I forget.
I believe he did.
I'm gonna look that up. But yeah, to continue that, I do
Yeah.
think this team needs a speedster receiver, but I
Yeah.
think they didn't need to reach for him there. I would agree.
Yeah, no. I don't want to I want to walk it back a little bit. I don't want to say Tyquan Thornton is terrible, but I
Yeah.
agree with you. I feel he was drafted too early. I mean, I think Marcus Jones, Jack Jones, and then Pierre Strong Jr. I think
I like the Pierre Strong pick.
those are all good picks, especially Pierre Strong. I was watching some of his tape at one point, and honestly, I was really hoping the Dolphins would pick him. But ultimately we signed Edmonds and Monster, and we kind of really need him anymore. I think honestly, Pierre Strong, Jack Jones, and Marcus Jones, those were their best picks. Bailey Zappi's not terrible because they definitely need a competent backup, and I think Bailey Zappi can provide that for them.
You
But
mean Mac Jones clone Bailey Zappi?
I mean, yeah, best way to get a reliable or a competent backup is someone who can run your system the same way your current quarterback does.
No, I meant that he looks exactly like Mac Jones.
He does. No. Well, he does, but I also think he's like a little bit of a similar player. Although honestly, I think Bailey Zappi is a bit more athletically gifted in terms of his arm talent.
Okay.
But other than that, I think the rest of their draft class kind of just meh.
Yeah, I mean, looking at I would agree with you. And they took another running back, Kevin Harris, which I'll admit I don't know much about him, but when you look at the backfield, Damian Harris has proven that he's really good. Belichick doesn't want to embrace Damian Harris. Every time Damian Harris gets the opportunity to be a clear number one guy, he lights it up.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I get Ramondre Stevenson also really good. That's a pick Belichick did hit on last year. Stevenson. I think that's a good tandem. But at the same time, I kind of just want to see what happens when Damian Harris is just the guy. But
yeah, I don't know. I mean, Kevin Harris, the Kevin Harris pick is only bad, I feel, because of I don't think Kevin Harris is a bad running back. I think the problem is the fact that like you have Damian Harris, who's great, Ramondre Stevenson, who's also great. That's a great 1-2 punch. So I think the two running backs they drafted on their own would have been great picks, but the problem is the circumstances and the fact that Kevin Harris was drafted on top of Pierre Strong. So
Yeah, I agree. And even Ty Montgomery's on this team, and like I don't hate him as like the backup, as the pass catching back, a kick return guy. I just think, and I know cuts haven't happened yet. The roster isn't finalized, but I just don't see a world where all these guys, except maybe Ty Montgomery, aren't on the roster. But at the same time, I kind of think Ty Montgomery will make the team. So I don't
That's
know.
fair.
I guess we'll see what happens. But I agree that was a wasted pick. We touched on Thornton. Like people will say Aguilar's on this team. He's a deep threat. Like I really liked what Aguilar did with Derek Carr. I thought he was really underwhelming last year. And you can maybe say that's the system. Don't want Mac Jones slinging it down the field all the time. But at the same time, then why sign Nelson Aguilar to begin with?
Yeah.
And then what do you think of the Devontae Parker trade? That's something we haven't touched on yet. He's joining Kendrick Bourne and Jacoby Myers. They kind of figure to be the top three receivers in this offense. Devontae Parker, he's flashed the potential, especially in that 2019 year with Miami. But what do you think of how he'll fit in with this team?
I think it's a good pick because they definitely needed a N'Keal Harry type player who's actually good at football.
Yeah.
But I'm not also super threatened by Devontae Parker because, sad to say it, the guy's just injury prone, and I don't think he's ever really going to shake that because even the 1 year he did show what he really can be, he got injured a lot of that year too. Like he was out like 3 or 4 games, I believe. I like Devontae Parker, but I think the problem is him being on the field.
Do you think that he could be the number one receiver for this team? Because I actually don't. Like, I really like what Kendrick Bourne did last year. And, Kendrick Bourne is not a good number one, but at the same time, I feel like he's a serviceable player. I think he's, he can do different things at the receiver position. So,
yeah, I agree. I think he's the number 2, but he's a good number 2.
Yeah, and I like Jacoby Myers as well. Yes. I feel like Jacoby Myers, maybe I might get flamed for this because, like, I do think I watched enough Patriots last year because, like I said, I was kind of into their team last year, but I feel like he's kind of similar to Kendrick Bourne, like, in a weird way. Like, they're kind of just, Jacoby Myers, I think, is more, like, possession dependent than Kendrick Bourne. I feel like they also kind of do similar things once the ball's in their hands. I don't know.
I'd say that's a pretty good explanation. I agree with that one.
Yeah, and like I guess we can talk about Mac now. Like we're kind of skimming over him here, but what do you think of him? I don't not like Mac Jones. I think he was easily the best rookie quarterback last year, but I just feel he's limited. Like I wouldn't want him if I was drafting quarterback. I think he would take me at least until maybe the 16th pick before I'm taking him over a lot of the guys in the NFL right now.
I'd say that's about right. Mac Jones, I thought it was kind of weird when he got like selected to the Pro Bowl over Derek Carr.
Really? That happened?
I don't dislike Mac Jones, and maybe it's because I'm a Dolphins fan, but I don't think he's all that amazing either.
Yeah, I agree. And like people will probably give you crap because of Tua, but like at the same time, I mean, I don't know. I'm dead serious. Like if you told me you could have Mac or Tua for the next 5 years, I would need like a day to think about it. Because I really don't. I think they're both fine. I don't know who's going to be better though. At the end of the day, Tua has the pedigree, but they're both from Alabama, of course.
I would take Tua, and not the only reason is just because like he provides a little bit more escapability.
Yeah, he's mobile.
Yeah, because like the thing that both of them thrived off of was how pinpoint accurate they are. Like they're very good accuracy wise quarterbacks. The only thing is that, like, if I have to pick one or the other, it's going to be the slightly more mobile one because I want someone who can, at the very least, escape the pocket. Mac Jones is, I mean, people joke about it, but, like, he really is Tom Brady 2.0. He's just younger.
Yeah. Like we were saying about Belichick.
Trying to just recreate what he had, So, I don't know. We'll have to see what happens, but I would say the only other thing I wanted to touch on about their offense, like we were talking about the run game, and their offensive line is still not too bad. Isaiah Wynn's still there. David Andrews coming. He's currently on the PUP list, I believe, but he's not half bad. Michael Onwenu.
He had a really good rookie year, kind of took a slight step back last year, but we'll see if he can continue to bounce back from that. And then Trent Brown's kind of the right tackle right now. And, ever since he left the Patriots the first time, the Raiders paid him a bunch of money. He's just not been that healthy. Like, he's missed a lot of time. I don't know. Like, I don't hate the O-line, but I also liked it a lot more a season ago. And then I guess Cole Strange is the other guard along with Onwenu, penciled in at the first round draft pick. But, like, do you think this run game, kind of like how they did at times last year, do you think it can make up for some deficiencies in the pass game, or do you think this is the year?
I think it will, but I don't think it's enough to help them. And honestly, interesting thing you pointed about Trent Brown. I actually think, I'll be honest, like, Trent Brown's thing has always been that the guy's massive and he's like huge. He's like this unmovable force. But I think what happened is that the Raiders gave him all this money. And this sounds mean, but I think he kind of got like lazy. Being a massive human being, it's gonna take a toll on your body in regards to football, because that's where like the real issue is. And like I think that's probably a big reason why. But I think Trent Brown's still good. He's a good tackle. I think the problem is that just like he's a little broken down now. Like he's gotten older, especially because like his size, he's going up against the bigger D line.
Right.
Well.
Right.
So, and I think their O-line has the potential to be good. Honestly, the biggest weak spot I see is not actually Cole Strange, because he's going to be playing guard. So he's going to be helped by being in between two vets. I think it's actually Isaiah Wynn. I think Isaiah Wynn's really underperformed. He's good, but he's nothing exceptional. And I think him being smaller than your average size tackle is like a real big detriment to him. And it's a shame. It kind of feels like he's one of those players who, his size is actually a detriment to how well he actually plays.
Yeah, he's only 6'2" at left tackle, and they're counting on him to be, Mac Jones's number one protector out there. I just Googled him, and I didn't realize Isaiah Wynn hasn't always been the healthiest. Like, until last season, he missed a lot of time. Last year, he only missed one game, but he missed a combined 14 games in his first 2 years. So, altogether, he's missed some time, and he's going to need to be healthy. And like we said about Trent Brown, like, these are two tackles who have an injury history. So I don't know. We'll have to see how this plays out for the Patriots. Another move Belichick made this offseason I just didn't get. He traded Shaq Mason to the Buccaneers for a fifth-round draft pick. He gave Tom Brady one of his most reliable offensive linemen right back.
Yeah.
I get they replaced him with Cole Strange, but like we said, like, the jury's still out on the Cole Strange pick.
Yeah, honestly, I don't want. Why are you helping Tom Brady too? Why are you getting rid of Shaq Mason? There was no reason to get rid of Shaq Mason. Shaq Mason was good. The dude's only 28. Like, he's a good player still. Like, especially just for a fifth rounder. Like, you should have at least gotten a third.
I totally agree. Ali Marpet retired for Tampa, and then they just hand Brady his replacement. Who, listen, Ali Marpet was good. Like, Shaq Mason maybe is better. It's an argument. So we'll see. I think that's going to help Tampa a ton. Maybe Cole Strange defies the odds and just has a fantastic rookie season. But as the looks of it right now, it's another thing I'm not really liking about this Patriots team.
I agree.
So I think we've both made it clear that we're not in love with this Patriots team. So I guess now, to wrap things up, it's best to take a look at what's on tap for them this year, what's on their schedule. So just to go through it real fast, they're starting out against your Dolphins in Miami, in Hard Rock. I'm going to go out and say that your Dolphins get a strong start this season with a win there. Then they're in Pittsburgh, and then hosting the Ravens, in Lambeau with my Packers, hosting Detroit, in Cleveland, hosting the Bears, in New York, hosting the Colts, hosting the Jets, in Minnesota, home for the Bills, in Arizona, in Vegas, home for Bengals, home for Dolphins, in Buffalo to end the season. They have a Week 10 bye. So this is a team that I think it's better for their bye to be in the middle of the season. At least that maybe gives Bill Belichick an opportunity to regroup with wherever the team stands. You look at that early schedule, Dolphins, Ravens, Packers, Colts are in there. Even the Steelers, who are going to have a really good defense at the very least. And even a division rival like the Jets, who we'll get to with Dylan in a bit here, they're going to be frisky. So I don't know. What are you feeling about that schedule I just read off? Like, don't you? It sounds kind of hard.
I'm looking at the schedule, and honestly, I see a few winnable games on here, but nothing more. Pittsburgh's winnable. Detroit and Cleveland, Chicago are winnable. Jets is winnable. Minnesota and Arizona are, but other than that, that's like 1, 2.
I
That's
mean,
like
I hate to
6
say it.
wins. That's like 6-1.
That's actually what I had. I had 6-11 for this team. And what I wrote down, I have them splitting with the Jets, and I gave them wins over the Browns and the Bears. I gave toss-up motions to in Pittsburgh, in Arizona, and home for Detroit. I mean, that might be underselling the Cardinals, but I'll get to my Cardinals thoughts when we talk about them.
Yeah, the
But
Cardinals are a little.
yeah, where they're a little shaky right now. I really think that this team at the end of the day is going to struggle to win some of these games. I'm sure one of these really good teams they play, they will pull off an upset because, at the end of the day, I don't want to diminish Bill Belichick too much. I don't think he's going to allow a team to win 2 games or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think 6-11 is a fair prediction. I just think this
Yeah.
team, offensively especially, I don't think they stack up to their division, and I don't think they stack up to the conference. The AFC is an arms race.
I agree. Totally agree.
I guess so. You're saying 6-11. We'll get to the Jets in a sec here, but before we get into that, do you think they can be better than the Jets, or do you think the Jets probably going to be better than the Patriots?
Honestly, I can't say for certainty that the Jets will be better because it's still Zach Wilson's still very iffy as a quarterback, but honestly, the Jets could very well be better than them. It's really a toss up. So.
I really do agree. I actually think the Jets almost certainly will be better than the Patriots this year, but that's just my opinion. And actually, we're going to get right in to the Jets right now. We're going to be joined by Jets fan Dylan Price, and we're going to see if he agrees with our take that the Jets could be better than Bill Belichick this year.